You know how sometimes you can read a piece of ancient poetry and it just clicks, like it was written directly for you? Well, today we're going to take a journey through just a few powerful verses in the Song of Solomon. It's a story about a deep, personal, spiritual transformation, and you'll see it's just as relevant for us today as it was thousands of years ago. So our journey kicks off with this pretty striking line. The king tells his beloved, she's like a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. And at first glance, you think, wow, what a compliment, right? He sees her as powerful, beautiful, totally impressive. But what if it's more than that? What if this isn't just praise, but actually a gentle challenge? And that question right there is the key that unlocks this whole thing. It's an invitation to look past the surface. So this brings us to the first stage of the journey, figuring out what this Pharaoh's horse really symbolizes. And it represents a state of being that's all about earthly strength. You know, relying on our own power, our own talents, our own beauty. Okay, let's break this down. Pharaoh, he represents the world system. And the horse, that symbolizes our own natural, kind of untamed strength. Think about it. A lot of times we start off trying to follow God on our own terms, full of our own plans and strategies. A lot like a powerful, maybe even reckless horse that hasn't really learned to trust its rider yet. The king keeps going, and he acknowledges her beauty. He notices the jewelry on her cheeks and the beads around her neck. And again, on the surface, this just seems like simple admiration. But here's the crucial part. It's what these decorations represent. Her cheeks are about external beauty. But the neck, in the Bible, often symbolizes our will, our obedience. So by decorating them herself, she's relying on her own temporary external efforts. These are human-made trinkets to try and make herself worthy. It's a shallow kind of beauty that can never really satisfy. And this is where everything changes. It is the turning point of the whole story. See, God doesn't just ask her to switch out her decorations. He makes a promise to completely remake her. This isn't about redecorating. We're talking about a total transformation. Notice the huge shift in this verse. It's not you will make, it's we will make. That we is so important. It refers to the Triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, working together in perfect unity. This is a divine promise. You can see the difference, right? It's night and day. Her trinkets were temporary, external, all based on her own effort. But God's promise is for something eternal, something internal, and it's all accomplished by His divine work. He's offering to replace her cheap beads with a crown. So let's dig into what this gold and silver really means. Gold represents the very nature and glory of God Himself, refined in us through the fire of trials. And silver? That represents the redemption bought by Christ. So God is literally promising to weave His own glory and grace into the very fabric of who we are. So, how does she respond to this absolutely incredible promise? Well, her response isn't to try harder or to strive, it's just love. She finds herself at the king's table, and from that place of grace, her love just starts to pour out. She says, while the king was at his table, and this isn't just any table, it's a place of royal presence, of fellowship, of complete abundance. And it's in this safe, grace-filled space that something beautiful happens. Her own true fragrance is finally released. And her loving response comes out in 3 different fragrances. First, there's the spikenard, which is an offering of her entire heart. Then myrrh, which is about remembering his sacrifice. And finally, henna, which is the choice to find her happiness in him and him alone. Let's just unpack those really quick. The spikenard is like when Mary anointed Jesus' feet, a total costly act of pure devotion. Myrrh, a resin used for burial, becomes a way for us to meditate on Christ's sacrificial love, especially when we're going through our own hard times. And henna blossoms, which grow out in the wilderness, symbolize finding Christ as our only source of joy, even in the driest seasons of life. This deep, responsive kind of love fundamentally changes her. It gives her a completely new focus, a totally new way of seeing everything. And of course, the king notices. He looks at her and says, "Your eyes are like doves." Now, this isn't just some poetic compliment about how her eyes look. It's an affirmation of her transformed inner vision. So why doves' eyes? Well,
Doves don't have great peripheral vision. They're very single-minded, looking only forward. They represent a pure heart, one that can truly see God. And they're famously loyal to one mate. This is exactly the kind of focused, faithful heart that pleases the Lord. And that brings us to the final, beautiful destination of this whole journey. After this amazing transformation, the beloved finds her true home, her true rest. She goes from being a visitor to being family.
I mean, just listen to the language here. She describes a shared place of rest, a bed that's verdant, meaning it's green and full of life. The house is built from cedar and cypress, the strongest, most beautiful and fragrant materials you can imagine. This is a picture of total security, life, and shared belonging. But the most powerful change of all happens in the pronouns. Earlier, she was talking about his chamber and his table. She was a guest. But now it's our bed and our house. That tiny one-word shift means absolutely everything. It's the move from being a guest to being a co-heir. It's a sign of complete union. And that's really the ultimate takeaway. This whole journey shows us that true spiritual rest isn't a destination we have to arrive at, but a state of being we get to live in. It's abiding. It's dwelling securely in the presence and love of Christ, no longer as a stranger, but as beloved family. So this story leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? God offers this deep, internal, eternal transformation. So what temporary, self-made ornaments, what forms of self-reliance or external efforts are we still holding on to when He is offering us a home,